Hello, everyone. I hope you all see my screen. Thank you for joining us today. So I will start with a quick introduction to let people have time to join. And then I will introduce our two speakers for today. So you are on mute for now, but at the end of the presentation, your microphone will be open and you will be able to speak. If you have some question during the presentation, please use the Q&A or the conversation, the chat section. This webinar is recorded and you will have the recording on our YouTube channel, and the presentation of the speaker and the link to the recording will be sent to you by email. So usually at the beginning of the webinar, we introduce the next webinar that we will have, but next time that we will see each other will be in Trieste in June. So we have two specific events that we wanted to present to you today. So on the 3rd and 4th of June, we'll have the IHE-Europe Experience Day. I will explain a bit more in detail the program. And on the 4th, 5th, and 6th of June, you will have two tracks of the Plugathon that you can register to. Registration for both events are still open. And please go to our website. I think my colleague Caroline will put the information in the chat section. So this year's Experience Day program is about health data spaces and leveraging IHE from use case to real life implementation. So we will have several blocks during those 2 days. So the first one is a block focused on imaging. We'll have a keynote speech from Serena Battimolo, who is from the Italian government. That will explain a bit what are the imaging solutions in Italy. Then will be followed by a track on national implementation on imaging with some information and experience sharing from 3 countries. We'll have the Netherlands, France, and Austria. Then we'll have a block on the IHE multi-country working group on imaging. It's a working group that has created some guidelines that they will share with you on imaging. Then you will have a block focused on the collaboration and the Gemini project. So that's a project with collaboration between IHE and HL7. So we'll have one on the European collaboration, and the second one on the computable care guideline, which is also a Gemini project. On the second day, we will have a focus on Europe with a keynote speech from the European Commission, and we'll explain to you a bit more in detail what is the HTS regulation and what will happen with this regulation in the following, I think, months and years. And this will be followed by 4 projects that are integrated into this regulation. So we'll have the MyHealth@EU, we'll have the joint action, XTEHR and XPNDH and XShare. And this will be followed by a discussion with all the speakers from the block in this discussion. And then we'll have the 2 last blocks. So one on the new regulation with focus on European AI Act, European Interoperability Act, and most probably also the International Radiology Act, but this is to be confirmed soon. And we'll have the last block of the Experience Day would be focused on testing continuum. So this block is more related to what you will hear today in this webinar. Just quickly, this block will have a keynote speech on the testing continuum, then information on the data in action with demonstration from the testing continuum and also from the AI Plugathon, followed by a session on the IHE Sharazon group. And this year is a bit special because we have the 20 years anniversary of the IHE XGS profile. So a bit will be said on that. And the second event that you can participate during the week, of course, is the plugathon, and more specifically, the two plugathons that are open to everyone. The radiology, AI radiology track, energy track are just reserved, so I will just explain the two first one. So the first one is on HL7 fire track. So here you can see educational session. You will have educational session and testing session. I will just present the educational session, but you can go into the website and you will find all the information. So this is the program for the first educational session with the introduction on the IHE profile based on fire. And so you see here the different profiles. And on the June 5th, you will have the other profiles presented to you, as well as the Senegal project. And for the EHDS track, you will have also two educational sessions that will be balanced between educational session and testing session. And here you will have the explanation of the European Health Regulation Format Laboratory Implementation Guide, and some projects that are related to EHDS and that are testing some specification. And on June 6th, you will have the second educational session with the project label to enable the NCPEH and the Italian telemedicine national platform. So that's all for me now. I would like to introduce now our two speakers. So Daniel Verezenau, who is the Gazelle product manager, and Anne-Gaëlle Berger, who is EL's interoperability expert, and they will today tell you a bit about the Gazelle as test IHE test management tool. Sorry. So Daniel, if you want to start, the floor is yours. I cannot hear you, Daniel.
Can I take over the screen sharing?
Oh, yes. Please.
Okay, perfect. So you should be able to see my screen at this point.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you for the introduction, Sophia. Looking forward to seeing everybody in Trieste. It's going to be very exciting, and we will definitely be using the Gazelle there, so it's very relevant. Let's start off the webinar by talking about some definitions. We often think a test tool and we just say, oh, Gazelle is a test tool. But in fact, Gazelle is a lot more. And I just wanted to go through some definitions of what is in the ecosystem test tool arsenal. And for that, going through some definitions. So it's healthcare interoperability is not just about making something work. It's really about proving it. And here's some of the components. So first thing that we see is the test simulator. The test simulator replicates real world environment in which the medical software will operate. So it kind of mimics the behavior of a device. You could think of this as some examples. Say, I'm receiving signals from an infusion pump, but in reality, I don't have an infusion pump. I've got a piece of software that's simulating that. The next sort of class of testing tools are validators. The validators really are used to verify that the medical software adheres to the preferred specifications, regulations, and requirements. So it checks that it produces the expected outputs given the inputs that it receives, right? And typically you will have one validator, one standard, or even one validator, one substandard. So you're either looking at content or format or specifics. The third category would be something like reference implementations. So these serve as benchmarks, right? So the algorithm or the protocol or the data format is correct. And we've been using reference implementations a lot in the IHE world. Like you can think about XDS Toolkit, right? That's a reference implementation. And there's more and more of these coming out, especially in the FHIR world. And right now in FHIR, we're talking about creating different levels of reference implementations so that we can really get a better idea of how refined they are. For instance, level 1, we're talking about a basic mock API capability, right? Where it just basically doesn't persist anything. The patient is unused. It resets every time you go through it. So it's very basic mock-up level. It's almost like a simulator, so it's R1, right? R2, we're talking about a slight more API capacity. So this level increases the benefits of the development because it's more context aware. So it includes security requirements. It could incorporate tokens or certificates. It's got some static patients. So it allows to conduct slightly more relevant information exchange. And then level 3 would be a reference implementation that is really context aware. So if you've submitted a patient the time before, it's still there. There's some metadata, it's still there. You can query for it. And then you're using multi-actor organizations, so it's much more complex. This is where I think something like the XDS Toolkit is at. Okay. We're talking about server versus client, right? You can have a client simulator that just triggers a server behavior. You can have a server reference implementation, which is called by clients. So there's lots of distinguished elements to think about here, okay? The concept of proxy, that's really when you really want to see the messages that are being sent and have them going through a different element, right? So these are just high-level pieces of testing and test software and test ecosystem elements, right? And they all have different roles. So focus, what's the main goal? Really, the simulator checks if things work. The validators check if they're safe, and reference implementations ensure they're all speaking the same language. What about output? Simulators get us fake device data, for instance. Validators say pass or fail, and reference implementations give us the code to build on. So when do you use them, right? Simulators are really for testing, validators are for proof, and reference implementations guide us in development. So each of these nodes, each of these components really play a crucial role in creating healthcare IT software. So it's not only functional, but also safe, compliant, and reliable. So it's really a team effort. Okay, so now at this point, you're saying, well, what is Gazelle? We've been through a lot of these different elements, and we still don't know what Gazelle is. Well, Gazelle is at its core a test bed, right? So imagine a virtual sandbox where electronic health records, medical devices, lab systems, and more can connect to play together. That's a test bed. It's a controlled environment where we can experiment, tinker, and ensure that everything communicates perfectly using standardized languages such as HL7, FHIR, and DICOM. So, but are these test beds crucial? Let's break it down, right? So what do you get? Test beds mirror real world healthcare scenarios. It's not just testing in theory, it's simulating actual workflows that are based on use cases, data exchanges, and potential hiccups. So this ensures that our systems are ready for the complex real life patient care. think of standardized environment as a universal language for healthcare IT. Testbeds follow multiple industry standards, right? So that they're all on the same page. So this guarantees consistent and reliable use, no matter who's testing or what system they're using, okay? The test beds are like a team sport. They bring together the developers, the vendors, even the providers, the hospitals, the medical staff, and everyone involved in healthcare IT. By collaborating in this shared space, we can identify and solve interoperability issues together faster and more efficiently. So nobody wants surprises when deploying a new system. The test bed lets us spot potential problems early on so that we can fix those in a smooth communicative way, right? Regulations, security regulations like HIPAA, for instance, or any security regulations are non-negotiable. So test beds really help us ensure that our systems are not only able to talk to each other, but they're also safe. So compliance and safety is a really big factor. So test beds aren't just for fixing problems. They're about pushing the boundaries. In this space, we're testing new specifications, new profiles, new systems, and it lets us experiment with new technology, try new approaches, and ultimately it drives innovation in healthcare interoperability. So test beds integrate external tools or come equipped with tools like simulators, validators, reference implementations, which act as our trusted assistant in this playground. They help us mimic the real systems, check if our data is playing by the rules, and provide guidance when needed, right? So when our system is good enough, the test bed enables peer-to-peer testing. Peer-to-peer testing is really next level, where you're not just testing against automated systems, you're testing against actual systems implemented by your peers, live systems. The complexity is always much bigger and much larger there. So there the magic of healthcare interoperability happens, ensuring that the patient information follows smoothly, securely, and efficiently across the entire healthcare ecosystem. Okay. Here's an image that is very interesting, and it illustrates the broad perspective that Gazelle enables. So Gazelles are trusted test bed. Think of it as the ultimate proving ground for e-health systems. It's where we put different software and devices through to pace to make sure they can actually talk to each other and they're speaking the right language. I don't know if you can see my pointer. So the Connectathon, which is right over here, these events are like e-health speed dating events, right? Vendors and stakeholders come together to see if their systems can mingle and exchange information without any awkward silences or misunderstandings. The Projectathon, think of this as a jurisdiction testing event for e-health. It's where countries, regions, or even continents build tests and new standards to improve local healthcare delivery. So they adapt the standards for what they're trying to do in particular over there. Point quality over here. So these are the rule books of eHealth. They ensure everyone is playing by the same rule, they're using the same language, and ultimately that the patient data is exchanged safely and accurately. Then we have the standards, which we're developing, And we are also testing during these connectathons. So we're not only validating the systems, we're also validating the standards so that we have feedback to adapt these. You know, in the IHE methodology, all standards go through trial implementation, and they have to prove that they're worthy for exchange. They work well at 2 different connectathons on 2 different continents, and then they can eventually go to final text. So as you can see, testing is complex and an essential endeavor. It requires the collaboration, the adherence to standards, a relentless pursuit of quality. But with the right tools, like our trusty Gazelle testbed and the dedication of our IT heroes, we can achieve the ultimate goal: seamless, secure exchange of healthcare information, leading to better outcomes, right? Okay, let's dive into a little bit more details about Gazelle. Now that we know what a test bed is, what testing and what we're doing. So Gazelle is an open source platform. It's been supporting the IHE Connectathon for over 20 years. It was founded by Eric Poisson and Inria team. So it's been created with the knowledge in e-health interoperability by the community. It is used throughout the world in many, many initiatives. I'll be able to dive into that a little bit later. It's used in international contexts. It's used by many e-health vendors internally as their own test bed for interoperability testing of their software as they're developing it. And it is used by projects even outside of e-health domain. This really proves that the IHE testing methodology works. It's not just for healthcare. I'm trying to go to the next slide. Okay. Oops. Okay. So Gazelle is about 20 years old this year or last year, and it's really a very large piece of software. It's really many pieces of software when you look at it. We say it's got over 2 million lines of code. It's been financed by IHE, Caraval, and a lot of other organizations over the years. Then the test plans are not necessarily part of Gazelle. The test plans you create, IHE creates, and then they are inserted into IHE. So it's test plan agnostic, I'd say. It's really a base where you can create your test plans. And I think Angel is going to get into that a little bit later. It's maintained by a team of over 12 developers today, and actually much more. And we've seen a lot of increase of usage. So there's different instances of Gazelle running. We know of close to 50 of them running today in different environments. So Gazelle is able to deliver in-house or cloud-based, right? And in fact, we've got the test management part that helps testing campaigns from start to finish. We've got the assertion manager, which really looks at the different profiles and links them to test plans and test managers. And together, the test management test assertion manager helps us also find dating partners. So the potential people you can test with in a peer-to-peer event. The proxy is a very interesting piece that captures the payloads and is able to send them to validation and brings all your transactions in one place. The security suite was developed to test specific security protocol conformances. These are very common throughout most protocols. You've got the same securities. And then there's a slew of validation services that are created, integrating with APIs, external validators, and some internal validators that are included in Gazelle. Gazelle also has got some simulators. Most of them are based around IHE actors that are often missing or difficult to bring to connectathons, are just very convenient to have in the platforms such as patient identity actors. Now we're diving even deeper into the Gazelle, I'd say like organic architecture. So you can see we've got 3 parts, right? So we're calling the Gazelle core the management piece that manages the users, the model, the test management, the product management. We've got EVS, which is our validation service. It's external validator service client. So this integrates with external validators, bringing them all in the same UI. And the Gazelle security suite, because this is common to all integrations and testing protocols. We've got Gazelle tools. So Gazelle tools are really a mix of validators and simulators and reference implementations that are built in Gazelle or part of the Gazelle platform. They're not part of the core, but they're needed for running connectathons and helping with testing. So when you're writing your plans, you can benefit from these tools. And then we've got the ecosystem tools, which are externally developed and maintained tools that are, a lot of them are reference implementations. A lot of them are validators. We can see things like Matchbox or Inferno or the XES toolkit here. These all integrate to Gazelle and are able to use externally. We want to encourage more and more external tools to integrate with Gazelle. Okay, diving into connectathons. Hope I'm still not going too slowly. So we've got over 20 years of connectathons. We had last year the connectathon in Rennes, France, over here, which was 2019, 2023. And this year it's in Italy. It is a testing event. Gazelle is the main star. It is used to test and help develop the platform, develop the software, validate, and we've got over 400, we say, people using it simultaneously, and it's really adapted to the connectathons, of course. I will jump through that. Okay, we call this the test continuum. So in the testing world, there's a whole lot of events. You've heard a lot of these names, and we're just trying to explain how they fit together. So we've got the HL7 Fire Connectathon, which is happening tomorrow and the day after in Dallas. We've got IHE Plugathons, we've heard in the introduction. We've got hackathons. So all these events, we call them enablers because they help build the base standards. They're really in the innovation space where the level of maturity is low, but the innovation is very high. So at a Fire Connectathon, we're building new resources for Fire. We're testing new IGs. They're not yet ready for testing in a Connectathon. So this happens in the IHE world where we've got multi-standards testing happening. So we're testing Fire, we're testing V2 and DICOM, and they're at a maturity level where we can have specifications. They go to Connectathon and they get certified. Now they have a seal. This enables procurement and deployment for jurisdictions. Ultimately, makes users have better products. We've got a conformity assessment program in IHE where you can certify your software as with a certified ISO lab. We've got a share zone. The share zone is specifically for sharing artifacts, whether they're right now or it's mostly geared towards the DICOM-based artifacts, but you can also exchange other sorts of artifacts that you need your systems to import or export and interpret. Then we've got the projectathons, which are really local events managed by the jurisdictions. So you're testing IHE standards or some of your local standards. And these are usually managed through a local entity, whether it's InfoWay Canada, ANS, eSwiss, and supported by IHE. And the output of this can be Connectathon results, right? Directly from the Connectathon. We have a new Connectathon results website that's being rolled out very shortly. We've got project labeling and product labeling, which really helps throughout the procurement process. So this is part of the slide. This is a slide to show you at high level the projectathons that are planned for 2024. You can see there's a couple. So these are the North American Connectathon event, the European event. We've got Digit, we've got the Swiss patient, we've got a Canadian projectathon, which might be being moved. We've got the LACPAS Connectathon, and I can dive into a little details about that so you have an idea what happens in a LACPAS Connectathon. We've got 16 countries that participated last year. They were testing IPS, MHD, and even a local standard, World Health Organization digital adaptation kit. I couldn't really say local, but it's a non-IHE standard. And then they were testing a innovation of a blockchain standard that they wanted to try out. So this gives you an idea of what can be tested using Gazelle. It's a broad spectrum. I will pass it over to you, Angel.
Yes, maybe I will share my screen now. Okay. Share, sorry. Okay, can I start the slideshow? Oh, sorry, I need to move to the next slide. So, I will have a more practical presentation of Gazelle. Staying in the projectathon context, you can wonder how Gazelle can support projectathon. So actually, Gazelle is a test bed, and although what you've seen at the Gazelle tools in Daniel's presentation are really focused and dedicated on specific profiles. The Gazelle core is something that is agnostic to the interoperability specifications. There's still work to make it fully agnostic, so there's no more mention of the IHE and e-health word in it. But basically, it allows you to model any kind of local interoperability specifications in healthcare or in other domains. And this model will be your basis for designing the test cases that you want the industry to run during a projectathon or a connectathon, or even for labeling, conformance assessment, or things like that. It's also the basis for registering the systems under test when they want to test, because we have this engine in Gazelle that will compute automatically a test plan for each individual system under test based on their registration on one side. So which features they want to, which functions of the system they want to test, and the test cases you have designed on the other hand. Gazelle also provides extendable tools. So the simulators and validators are developed in a way that we have extension points. So if you extend the IHE specifications, you might be able to reuse the Gazelle tools with a few modifications. And also because Gazelle integrates with external tools, if you already have tooling for your interoperability specifications, that's something you might want to integrate with Gazelle and reuse for your events. So as a demo, we will focus on the radiology workflow. So it's a bit dated, but it shows you how in IHE we managed to leverage several standards to fulfill a complete a use case on the field. So here it's the representation of the schedule workflow in Gazelle. So you can see all the actors and all the transactions. So this drawing is, we move to this here, is a computation of the, based on what you will enter in Gazelle. So here, if I go to the schedule workflow B, profiles. So you will, okay. So yes, okay. So here you have the graphic there representing all the interactions between the actor or the transactions, and it's something that is created thanks to the content that you will enter there. So you will we will create all the entries for the actors, and then you will create all the entries for the transactions, saying which actor is initiating which transaction to which actor. You can also define the options. So doing this, you will have a complete overview of and a complete model of your interoperability specification. And as I said earlier, it will be the basis for you to design your test cases for your event. So that's something we've done. So let's focus on a scenario where we want to test the interactions between the order placer, the radiology system, the radiology information system, so the order filler, and the acquisition modality. So and also the image manager. So one of the test cases we might want to perform at an interoperability testing event is, okay, so I place an order, the order filler schedule, the procedure, and the acquisition modalities queries the risk to know which examination should be conducted on the patient. So that's something you can easily design in Gazelle. So each test case is defined with a short summary where you can give a name to your test, version it, say whether it will be a peer-to-peer test or if it's more conformance test where the system under test interacts with a validation service or a simulator. And you can give a short description so it's easy for the user to understand quickly what will be the purpose of the test. Then you have a free text area where you can put all the information you need to share with the users for them to complete their test successfully. Usually we use this description and we build 3 sections. So a few requisites, the description, so what will be done during the testing, and then the evaluation criteria are given there. So that's free text. You can create tables, you can copy images, and things like that. And then you will tell the system, okay, so which roles should be involved in this test case. So in our case, we want an order placer, an order filler, an image manager, and a modality. So it means that to run this test case, we need all those 4 systems to convince that they will test together and execute the scenario. So the scenario I've imagined here is, first, the order placer will register 1 patient and place a new order for him at the order filler. The order filler will schedule the procedure and notify the image manager that some images will be coming soon. And when the patient arrives at the acquisition modality, the acquisition modality queries the RIS to know about the procedure to be done. So that's what we want to test. So I have created those 6 steps here. Each time I've said who is initiating the transaction and who is responding, which transaction has to be performed, and which message has to be sent, with a short sentence explaining to the user what we expect from him. And that's all. So my test case is now ready for being used by participants during the event. So what will happen next? So we have created our test cases that apply to the interoperability model. And on the other way, we will have the systems and the tests that will claim that they implement our interoperability model. And using all those 3 pieces of information, Gazelle is able to compute a test plan. To compute a test plan. So here it's one for MHD document recipient to compute a test plan. And for each peer-to-peer test, it is able to tell to the participant, so your secure messaging system, okay, well, so here are all the doxers claiming support to MHD that you might want to test with. And if you have already successfully tested with some of them, you will see it here. And you can also find where they are sitting, so you can easily date with them. And here is your test plan, and you will see your results as your test cases has been reviewed by the managers. Then you will start your test case. Select what are the partners. Run the test. So it's what we will be doing right now. So I've take a bit of advance there. So it's so here I have my running test case with my 4 systems. So One is playing the role of order placer, one is the order filler, the image manager, and the modality. And then here you can see that the test steps has been instantiated to reflect which system is expected to take an action. So for step 1 here, we expect the fourth system to register a patient, and here to enter the patient ID and name of the patient he has admitted. So the participants use Gazelle to collect the evidences of their test execution. So it's easier then for the monitors to assess what they've done and to put a grade, so failed or passed, on each test run. Here we've asked the order placer to send this OMG message to the order filler. They've done it through the proxy, and the scope is a link to the HL7 message. So here you can see the details of what has been captured during the exchange and the received acknowledgement. And the participant will do the same for every step. They will send the messages through the proxy, retrieve the message of interest, reference the message in the test steps, and move to the next step and the next step and the next step. And at the end, when they're done, they simply mark the test as to be verified. So a monitor can have a look to their tests. So looking at the monitor work list here. Okay, looking at the monitor work list here, you see that this test is waiting for verification. So as a monitor, you are able to access the content of the test case, review all the evidences. If you find some discrepancies or if you find errors, because the proxy is connected to our EVS client, so it's easier to check. It's easy to check the conformance of the messages. Then, as a monitor, you can review all the evidences and decide, well, so this test is verified, or this test is failed, or this test needs more evidences, or needs a live verification, or something like that. So this is how it works in practice within Gazelle. And finally, when you are done with all your test run, the testing session manager and the technical project manager can review all the test cases, make sure you've met all the requirements, and decide whether you've passed or not for each actor you have registered for. So as I told you, Gazelle is not only used in the healthcare domain, but also in other domain application, like in France with the private insurance, private health insurance, where we are exchanging data that are nothing to see with any standards we can meet in IHE. They are flat text formatted messages, data matrix, and so we managed to create the mode to enter their interoperability model within Gazelle, to create the test cases. And in this particular particular use case, Gazelle is used by the editors and the lab to check the conformance of the systems before they connect to our national health insurance. And from a European Commission point of view, we have the Once Only Hub project. They are conducting a projectathon this week in Brussels. The purpose of this project is to create an infrastructure for sharing informations, mostly legal documents like your driving license, national identity card, university diploma, and things like that, between public and private administration across the member states on a secured way. So the European Commission uses Gazelle to support the projectathon. They've had 3 projectathons last year. They have 2 or 3 more this year. The goal is really for the member states to meet in one place and to test together how they are able to exchange data and be sure that the deployment will be a success across Europe. Daniel, do you want to conclude?
Sure. So Gazelle is evolving and it's got a lot of legacy, and we are bringing it back to standards and implementing a lot of changes to continue evolving to support newer features, new UI, and make it more modern looking, more cloud friendly, and more efficient and easier for the team to maintain as well. So this is a high-level roadmap where you can see this year we've got the Gazelle proxy that's being redone. I think we have a beta version, Angel, that will be presented at the Connectathon in Trieste. We have the new user management module that is already available. We've got the validation service API that's started, that's been deployed, that we've got validation services that are starting to use. Then we're looking into the other modules that will be redone in 2025, 2026, as we're looking as for the terminology server, the simulation, the test execution, the EVS client, and so forth. So it's continuing. It's very vivid. It's very active, and a lot of changes are happening. I believe you are still sharing on Gazelle, Angel.
Yes. Yes. So that's. Oh no. So yes. Here again.
I think it's
yeah. Maybe
Sophia.
I think it's back to Sophia.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daniel and Angel. Thank you for this presentation. I think what we can advise to the people in the webinar is to come and sit directly in Trieste and see how it works. Even if you are not registered for the Plugathon or the Connectathon, you can have an opportunity in the experience day to have a look at what's happening and how Gazelle is working directly. So maybe some of you have some question for the speakers. So if you would like to unmute and ask them, we have not so much time, but I think in 4 minutes we can have a lot of question already.
Charles, a quick question. Will Gazelle be used in the plugathons?
Yes, we've planned to use it at least for, I know we will use it for the IHE-DS. We will provide the validation tools.
Okay.
I think for the Mark session is AI in radiology, they will use the proxy.
Okay, so
but that's not formal testing, so we don't have a dedicated full version of Gazelle for those events.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if there are other questions from other participants. I think there were none on the chat. In the meantime, what I can tell you for the webinar is that please keep an eye on our IHE-Europe webpage, because we will, so our next step is the Connectathon, of course, but we will come back with new webinars in July, and then do maybe a break during the summer and come back also in September, October, and so on. If there are no other questions, I can just thank you very much to all of you, to our two speakers and participants for today's webinar, and we hope to see you, all of you, in Trieste in a little less than a month. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you soon.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.